it gets absolutely abused by the wrong people who would just teach this, and it's all manifesting and all of these things, right? Nothing wrong with all of that, but it just becomes cheesy. It looks stupid, and it looks childish. But under it all, there's such truth.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 306. Hope you're amazing, as always. Really do hope it. This might be, for a few weeks, the last episode with this awesome mic. Yeah, you're going to get a good mic, but it isn't my home mic. I'm going to be traveling off to Latin America for a few months, and yeah, it's adventures begin again. The thing is about what I love about life is that other people set rules, and isn't it nice that they're just other people's rules, right? And we just have to learn them to be able to then think outside the box, think at a higher level, and carry on with our mission. So, traveling is what I love to do. And if you've never been to Latin America, Central America, South America, it's amazing. And the people are beautiful, as in their hearts and the way they live life. And definitely the mindset. I remember the first time, it was years ago now. Actually, well, not that many years ago, about 3 years ago. I actually did a podcast around it, and it was when I first arrived in Panama. It's one of the places that I live. And Panama it's a wild little country, right? I love it. I love the people. I've got some incredible friends there. Had amazing experiences there. Lived in badass apartments overlooking prestigious squares, like we're overlooking the ocean, and it's like the apartments from like 100 years ago. Crazy stuff like that. But what I love is when I first got there, I was walking down the street, and it blew my mind because it was, especially 3 years ago, times were different. It's wild how fast our reality is changing. And do you know what? It blew me away because I was just walking down the road, just enjoying where I was going, and everybody, and we're talking like 90% of people, were just doing life. And they were sitting there on the edge of the road, and I shouldn't be sitting there. They were on chairs, around benches and parks and stuff. But guess what they were doing? Yeah, they were not on their phone. Yeah, they weren't. They were talking, they were enjoying nature, they were present, they were sitting in the sun, right? Big difference. So those people who were living life like that, are they making Neuralink or Tesla rockets? No, they're definitely not. But are they happy? I'd say so. I know so. Because whether it's been Bali, Fiji, or all of these other countries that I've stayed in and lived in, it's a case of the simplest way of life seems to be the happiest, right? Now, that's a contradiction in itself. Obviously, rich people can be happy and sad, and poor people can be happy and sad, right? The poorest people also might be the happiest because they don't have any other worries but daily living, right? And there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for nature. There's something to be said, right, for living in a frequency. Do you know what I mean? And if you've never looked at the scientific studies around walking in with your bare feet on the grass, it's grounding. It's quite incredible, actually, what it does to the body's nervous system and brain. It's quite amazing. So what does that tell you, right? Are we doing this game wrong? Are we doing this game wrong? And what do I mean by that, right? Because, again, society is a business. It's a machine, and that machine indoctrinates our brain. It really, really does. And I don't just mean your brain now from social media. And we're talking generations and generations of simply controlling the information that is put inside someone's head. And it's the same. If you watched, this is where we start talking about mirror neurons and neuroplasticity and things, but besides all of that, just think about it. If you watched horror films every single day, right, for 2 months, a month, 6 weeks, a year, how are you thinking by the end of that? How are you thinking by the end of that month? And I don't care what you say, I wouldn't want to be hanging out with you because you'd be thinking like a weirdo. You would. Why? Because the brain replicates what is dominantly around it most. This is where we talk about genetics change, where we talk about brain structure change. This is how human beings have evolved and adapted to constant change, right? This is how 15 years ago, what we're living in right now, the tech world didn't exist. So the other side of that, if you watched everything about, I don't know, the Dalai Lama or Buddha, right? If you watched everything about those for a month, 6 weeks, a year, how are you going to be thinking? Right, you're going to be thinking extremely different to that weirdo that's watching horror films every day, right? Hey, if you like horror films, no offense, I'm just explaining to you how the brain replicates what it's around the most, and what that means is you start thinking, feeling, and acting a certain way. Now, what I really, really believe, I'm getting old these days, you know what I mean? I'm getting old, and I've seen a lot of things, done a lot of stuff. I've, 24 years old, left the UK, Liverpool, and went to Australia, headhunted to New Zealand, become the top in New Zealand and Australia for investment real estate, and then launched my own company at 26, doing investment. And then guess what? We took I created a development company with a business partner to build $100 million resort in Fiji. And that's awesome, right? Until your business partner steals all your money, sends you into bankruptcy, lies to you, and watch you lose everything. But the truth is, that was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. Why do I say that? I really mean that because before I was living in insecurity and accumulation. And accumulation means it's insecure. There is doubt, and we need external validation to make ourselves feel good. And that's what happens with the bling bling. And remember, since all of that, I have rebuilt my career in the rest of the world, and I'm one of the top guys for what I do. And I have seen every type of person you can imagine, from Fortune 500 CEOs, right? From world champion athletes to trauma victims to people who are doing IPOs, the top traders in the world, even Saudi Arabian royalty. And the thing is, when you start understanding that the brain is structured a certain way and we can adapt it, we can change it. And all of that is amazing, right? All of that is amazing. But there's a secret sauce. There really is a secret sauce. And I've tested it now. I've tested it from being homeless. I've tested it from living on couches. I've tested it from not being able to afford rent or food over the past 19 years of jumping out into the world and being crazy. And the thing about that is, through my mental performance, through tuning my brain up, right? What that does is change my perspective. It changed my view of the world. It actually changes my filter system or my reticular activating system inside of my brain. So I'm seeing a very different reality. But just like everything, you have to pump a muscle. And that muscle is in your mind. It's your brain, right? And you have to pump what you want, not what you don't want, because your brain works like a muscle. So once we understand those basics, and I can go on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, I want to also, what this means is I really believe we are, as human beings, we're energetic beings. What does that even mean? That sounds so woo-woo. And yeah, it is woo-woo. And we're going to go down some woo-woo, right, today. So there's a whole different world that some people live in. And I live in this too. Right? Because what this is about 24 hours a day energy management. Do you understand? Energy management. So what that means is not just you're all feeling tired, right? What this means is we are electromagnetic beings. What that means is everything around us, look what I talked about when we walk in nature, right? Everything has a harmonic, a frequency. And you know what it's like if you're doing dodgy stuff, you're thinking bad stuff, you're hanging around with bad people, and you're going against your intuition. What generally happens? Do you feel happy? Good things start to happen? Never, right? It never is. And so when I tell you about being living on couches and just homeless and stuff, it's a case of what changes that is absorption, immersion, immersing your brain around the people, beliefs, perspective that we want to be like, and then understanding that everything then is frequency. And it's like a hot air balloon rising. We can put our brain all there, right? But the truth is, it's the traumas that create weights, and those weights pull us back down. And what I do is we change the neurology and we change the frequency of who you are. And what that does, guess what? That creates radical results that most people can't get with people. This is 19 years of having more experience than most people out there. And that's why I've been able to help the level of people that I have. And that's why I'm going to help you, okay? So what today's episode is about is, guess what? I'm going to give you about 30 minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes from over a 2-hour training that I did specifically on this, right? I have a VIP circle. It's maximum of 10 people. And yeah, I don't let everybody in. I tell a lot of people no, because I've got to really like you and you've got to be on a mission. It's affordable because I keep it a little next to me, right? So I look after, as I do my other businesses, the finance businesses, I'm launching a new business with a badass entrepreneur friend of mine, which I'm really, really pumped about, which actually is going to go into this secret sauce even more at a higher conceptual level, right? Because the thing is, with entrepreneurism and business, it's so many moving parts. It's not just tactics and strategies and marketing. Because the truth is, anybody can teach that. And the truth is also, those things change. What doesn't change is how you communicate the unconscious mind and frequency and changing neurology. And that will always be the same because we are human. We didn't have Facebook a while ago, and then groups were good, and then advertising sucks now, and this has changed, then you get the idea, right? So once you understand how to live life a different way from a higher level perspective, then what happens is everything else seems simple. Like it? Makes sense? Good. I know you're going to enjoy this little section of the of this masterclass training that I did. I know you're going to love it. And also, speaking of loving it, I've got, I think, 4 spaces left in this VIP. That's what's open right now. So why don't you click on the show notes or go to andymurphy.biz and go to mentoring and click apply. Message me. Let's have a chat. If it's the right fit for you, it's the right fit for you. Everything else is off the table right now. Everything else is full. Everything else is off the table. This is the only thing available if you want to be around me and learn the skills that I've taught to NBC stars and everybody else. Sound good? A little bit of a pitch on it, but I want to help you. And sometimes you got to give yourself a kick in the ass and do something different. So do that today. And speaking of today, I am going to play this little clip. I know you're going to love it. And if this is new to you, this side of life and business, then, well, awesome. Awesome. You're going to open your mind and you're going to listen to this, because I'm telling you, this is the secret sauce that I've seen at the highest levels, and it's what I implement in my own life 24 hours a day. And it's something I really just don't teach. I just don't teach it. I come with the science, but the truth is we come with the science, but we've got to come with the frequency in the universe too. So together, that's a beautiful equation. And speaking of beautiful equations, I'll see you at the end of the show. Boom. What's going on, everybody? I'm not sure what mastermind we're up to. I'm going with a guess at 11. Maybe 10, maybe 11. Today, I want you to get your metaphysical socks on, because today we're going to do something a little bit different. And I mean different. We're going to go through lots of stuff, but I want to show you another side of my life and also a high performer's perspective of really what I focus on 99% of the time. And yes, it's interrupting patterns. Yes, it's doing all those things. But really, from morning to night, what I'm doing is keeping myself in a vibration, a frequency, an energy, a certain place. This isn't really talked about much. And when it is talked about, it's very, very woo-woo. You know what I mean? And so we're not going to go down the woo-woo. We're going to go down how this is applicable, because I really do believe that this is a side of life and business that is the secret sauce. Because the truth is, you could be feeling a certain way, good or bad. And the truth is, we know what it feels like when we're in a bad place, right? We know what it feels like when we're focused on bad things, we're doing stupid stuff, going against our intuition, when we're feeling sad, when we've lost hope, when we feel like we're in a hole. We know what it feels like, right? What comes? More shit, right? More dark thoughts, wrong people, wrong opportunities, and we end up feeling like we're stuck in a place or a hole that we don't know how to get out of, even though we are ticking all the logical boxes, right? Ticking all the logical boxes. We're working on our unconscious mind. We're doing those things. I get it, right? But there's a secret source to all of this. And that's what I want to get into today. And I really genuinely believe, I'm 100% certain, if you start understanding this and moving down this path and starting to see life this way, I promise you, your business will absolutely radically go up. There'll be people contacting you that you didn't even know exist. There'll be people reaching out to you, right? Opportunities will appear. People will appear like magic. Sounds stupid? Sounds woo-woo? It's just what I've seen for 19 years. And it's got me out of the most craziest circumstances. It was like when I just started the podcast, right? Mindset by Design, and quite a few years ago now, right? And I just come back. I'd been living in Bali, living in San Diego. I came back, my grandparents were passing, right? I went and lived in maybe I told you a story before, but I went and stayed with my mom and dad, right? And I stayed with them because I could be 5 minutes up the road, but you never see them. You know what I mean? So what's the point? I might as well be around them. So when I wake up, they're in the house. Well, there's a challenge with staying in a house that you grew up in a room that you grew up in with your parents, right? Doesn't work well for after a few weeks, right? And so I was there, I was there 3 months. That's why it freaked me out. But the reason I say this is I'm explaining frequency and I'm explaining anchors, and then I'll get into everything I want to show you today. So I was sitting there, and it's all good when you first go and visit family or you first go and see new environments. What happens? Dopamine spikes. We feel great. Everything's new. We're connecting with everyone. Then what happens after a while? If this is the house, especially if you grew up in, right? You got to be very, very careful. Why? Because the walls, the view, the tonality of the voices from your parents all start to trigger and create responses that we don't want, right? They start to bring our neurology or our brain right back to when we were a kid. You get treated the same way, right? So I was sitting there one day going, we best get it together quick. And I was doing okay, but it was like things started to fall apart, right? And I was like, wow, okay, we got to do something. So all that kept coming through my head was frequency. This is all about frequency. It's frequency. This is all this little voice kept saying in my head. So I was like, okay. And I've probably told this story to a few of you in the past. So obviously I knew how to change state. So what I did was develop anchoring. And I teach this if we're talking about environmental anchoring. I pulled out an old Rocky poster, right? That was in front of me. I had my NLP book. I see if I've got it here actually. Get the Life You Want by Richard Bandler. right? That's sitting there on the floor. And then I had my little spiritual altar, because I'm a little woo-woo too. So I had all these three things. So I'd be working away going, oh, shit, can't be bothered, this freaking me out, whatever. I'd look up, I'd see Rocky's picture, right? Instantly, that's a trigger in a good way, right? So I'm not just thinking about the journey of Rocky as the character. I'm thinking about Sylvester Stallone's journey to get that done. What does that mean? That means he didn't have a dollar, couldn't afford his rent, was offered $100,000 cash. This is in what, the 70s? $100,000 cash to buy his script off him. And he was like, no, I need to direct it. I need to star in it. Everything said no, right? So he got it in the end, and obviously. So that started to what? Raise my frequency, change my state. So I started to re-anchor or change the vibration in that whole house. Why am I telling you this? Because guess where the idea came from to start a podcast? Magic, out of nowhere. Frequency there, we'll teach you all this in a second, but frequency there, I didn't have a clue. Couldn't even imagine that podcast happening. Think, I rise my frequency, guess what happens? Ideas. And then I didn't know if the podcast was going to work, right? Didn't have a clue. But everything kept going through my head. This is frequency, this is frequency, this is frequency. So guess what I did? I just launched. I did as many interviews as I can, put as many podcasts out as I can, and it took off. But it was only because of my vibration. And it sounds stupid, but this is the truth, right? So what I want to cover today is understanding a few different things. And we will get a few things, yeah. First of all, I'm going to teach you this. We're going to go over actually what Tesla, not the car, the original Nikola Tesla, what he spoke about frequency. Then we're going to go into actually a scientific study, right? Just to freak you out a little bit and show how real this stuff is, on an energetic field that we have around us, which is called a biomagnetic field, or an aura, right? Think about this. Then we're going to show you David Hawkins' map of consciousness. If you don't know David Hawkins, you don't understand what this map of consciousness is, this is going to change your life. Promise you. Then we're going to talk about, quickly, I'm going to show you a couple of videos. And I think personally, this is the most, like what you're going to learn today is the most powerful lessons you can ever learn. Absolutely. I promise you, right? So then we're going to talk about, everyone's talked about the law of attraction, right? You've seen The Secret and all that cheesy shit. Well, the law of attraction it's real. It's just a cheesy word that's been abused, right? But it's real. We magnetize things to each other. And I'll explain that more. But what I want to show you in that map of consciousness, in the law of attraction, there's a law that comes before it that makes the law of attraction work. If you don't understand this law, the law of attraction doesn't work. Okay? I need to tell you this stuff, right? The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a tiny little bit about quantum physics. Okay? I'm going to show you a basic understanding of what that means. Why am I showing you all this madness? And then if we've got time, I've got a 555 meditation that got taught to me by someone who's probably earns about 30 million a year. So I want to put all this together, right? Why? I believe that you can 20x any results by focusing on vibration and frequency. It gets absolutely abused by the wrong people who would just teach this and it's all manifesting and all of these things, right? Nothing wrong with all of that, but it just becomes cheesy. It looks stupid and it looks childish. But under it all, there's such truth. And I want you to play with this in every area of your own life, right? And I'm going to show you these things right now. But before I do, right? I know this is a little bit different today, but before I do, I want you to understand vibration in the most simplest way I can explain it to anybody ever. And this is I've explained this to a lot of people. And this also relates back to what I taught you about words being connected to emotions, okay? So I want you to understand, look at it like this. And if you did this all day, If you did this one thing all day, I promise your life will change, right? This one thing before we even get started. Understand this concept. Imagine there's a line in the middle, right? Okay. High frequency, low frequency. Light, dark, okay? Love, fear. First of all, understand that, right? Light, dark, love, fear. High vibration, low vibration, okay? So when we start to understand this, what does this mean? Well, like I said before, when we are feeling shitty, when we are going against our intuition or this little voice inside of you telling you what to do, but you decide, no, I'm going to do something else. These little things attract like a magnet more shit to you, okay? So when you're in that place, understand, what words are you saying to yourself? I'm stressed, this doesn't work, I'm not good enough, I'm broke, fear of money, what's happening here? All of these things, right? These are the words that are spinning around your head, connected to an emotion, hitting a harmonic, bing, that keeps that frequency there. Fear or love, right? Sounds cheesy. There's only two emotions. Fear is connected to guilt, anger, frustration, annoyance, self-sabotage, the past, all of these things. What do we know when we're vibrating there? More shit comes every single time. Fact, guaranteed, it's coming, right? What's the opposite? Light, dark. Light, love. What's love? Sounds cheesy. Excitement, joy, passion, right? Purpose, in like being guided in your head towards something. All of these feelings that are high vibing, guess how they make you feel? High vibing. What happens when we're high vibing all the time? You're thinking good things. Ideas come. People come. You watch a movie, the dark you would see that whole movie in a completely different way. The light you would see that whole movie in a completely different way. That's a paradigm shift of life, okay? That's what I want you to understand. Now, the other side of this is you can become very successful from the dark. Very successful, right? But the problem is, right, that's coming from ego. The ego is connected to what? Insecurity, fear, doubt, fear, right? Low frequency. So what that means is, I've seen this a million times. So when people gain success, monetary success, all the bling that we all look at and want, understand that what they're doing is using that dark, that fear, that scarcity, that lack of self-worth as momentum to drive forwards and push, right? That's how you can get billionaires, for example. Knocking people out the way, just fucking let's go. That's going to create a human with wealth who is very, very sad and empty. I've seen it. The other side of this, if we come from light, excitement, joy, passion, alignment, our mission, if we come from that place, guess what happens? Right. You have different conversations. Everything opens up. So what I'm trying to say very briefly, and I'll go through all of this today, but what I want to show you is there's two paradigms of way to live, okay? It's like you and me could be sitting on a wall looking at the sunset over a beautiful ocean, right? I could be so caught up in my head that I don't even see that sunset. All I hear is the words. All I feel is the stress. You could be sitting there going, crying because that sunset's so beautiful. I want you to understand who's going to have more likely the creative idea to save whatever it is. Right, it's not going to be the dark one because the dark one's focusing on what they don't want, right? So I just want you to understand this first of all. If all day this was one thing you did was ask yourself, is this the light me or the dark me about to do this, right? Is this high vibe or low vibe about to do this? What's this decision coming from, Okay, we'll go into everything, but does that make sense? Can we all relate to that? Do you know what I mean? And so when I tell you this because it's the most powerful thing. When I've been through bankruptcy, when I've been homeless, when I've been sleeping on couches, when I've had I couldn't afford rent, food, anything. What gets you to the next stage is focusing on frequency every single time. Okay, so I tell you this because it's genuine that this is the secret sauce, right? So what I'm going to show you here is just, now you might have heard, where are we? So you might have heard this quote before, okay? What did Nikola Tesla mean by his quote? If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? That's what Nikola Tesla did, right? So he said, so to put this in a simpler way, which is, I love this guy, what this guy said, okay? So let's go metaphysical and philosophical for a moment, okay? So let me put this into philosophy, into simple words. The whole of the universe is energy, and each basic element of the known atomic chart consists of energy at different rates of vibration. This difference between the two elements is the difference of both atomic and structure and vibration rates, right? There is a frequency or vibration of energy that fills the universe. This energy is not only beneficial, but also essential to all living cells, whether human, plant, or animal. Man utilizes this energy with his mind. Every thought is transmitted by his energy. Every aspect of life in the physical depends on the basic energy or power of the universe. Constructive use of this use of energy raises the level of consciousness of a man, and in turn raises the vibrational rate of their frequency. Every individual has a different rate of vibration. All of man's earthly problems are created by his thoughts, projections. What we project into our mind and all thoughts that we receive. Spiritual growth requires the elimination of all negative thoughts, which dissipates the life force or vital energy. Every individual, knowingly or otherwise, makes use of this energy. Our body uses this energy to heal injuries or to reduce fatigue or stress, and to grow both physically and spiritually. Without exception, this ability to attract as much of this universal energy as the individual's body and mind requires. So what the heck does that mean? So let me explain. And this comes from a couple of things, but this well, first of all, is to understand everything's frequency, every single thing, right? Although we can't see air, we use it in every single aspect of every single part of our life. So one might, like, for example, shall I teach you this now or teach you that after? I'll teach you that after. I was going to talk to you about the energy being sticky. But what I want you to understand about energy is it sounds mental. But if you look on the back of a can of beans or soup, what is one of the things in there? I don't know if you've noticed. Energy. You can read energy on the back of the ingredients on a pack of soup, right? Energy is real. The difference is how you want to understand it, how you want to perceive it. And at the richest, most successful people, this is what they're doing, right? So why am I saying this to you? Because if the goal changed, right? If the goal changed from tactics and strategies, if the goal changed from pushing forwards, driving and doing 26 hours a day, if the goal changed from that to rising our frequency to become magnetic to who we want to become like, then guess what happens? This is how your whole world will change. What the heck does that mean? Let me show you. So, anybody seen this guy before or know anything about this dude? Do you know David Hawkins before? Ever heard of a book? No, yeah, Letting Go, or I've spoken about lots, Letting Go, or Power versus Force, right? These are incredible, profound books, right? And what David Hawkins was, he was a bit of a strange cat, but he was also pretty incredible. He was an MD, he was all of these things. He run hospitals, he was a psychologist, and he was just an incredible human being. And what he worked out, does anyone heard of kinesiology before? Anyone know what kinesiology is? Right? Yeah. It's okay if you don't, right? Kinesiology was something I didn't even know what it was. But I gained, when I first got to Australia and moved to New Zealand, for some reason, I had chronic fatigue syndrome. That's what I got. I got chronic fatigue syndrome. I was diagnosed as celiac. And that means you're allergic to gluten, dairy, wheat, like to hypersensitive levels to, like, you'd have flour in a sauce and I was in bed for 3 days in agony. You know, that's how sensitive it was. I beat it, by the way. I healed myself from celiac. But what kinesiology is, I went to see like 5 different doctors. They were diagnosed with Asian flu, all this different stuff. Kinesiology is weird. It's muscle testing. What they did is lay me down. They had trays of bottles. Each bottle had different things in it. There was hundreds. They put a tray on your chest and they muscle test you. Literally, your arms in the air. Weirdest stuff. If you are allergic to something in that tray, no matter how hard you kept your arm in the air, just wobbly. Just wobbly. You take that thing out, rock solid. It's insane. Your body is communicating. Basically, it's saying it's what's reacting to. It's got an allergy towards. So that's kinesiology at the basic level. So what Hawkins did was map out every single level of universal frequency, dealing with hundreds of people, and worked out consciousness. And that means up to like being a Dalai Lama and vibrating off the world, right? So I have friends, and I'm not joking, who earn millions and millions and millions a year, that this chart is what they are obsessed with. Obsessed from morning to night. Everything they do is regarding this chart. And I'll explain it in a second. And I spoke about a second ago frequency, and I explained through, not auras, I explained through Nikola Tesla. I explained this, right? Well, talking about everything's frequency. Well, there's something out there which is technology called biofeedback. If anyone has heard of biofeedback, brilliant technology. And what it does, I asked my friend Matt about this. It's crazy successful. And I said, so what's the point in biofeedback? And he gives it, well, what it does is, imagine this, right? Imagine if every project that you were wanting to do, or every business deal, or anything in life, right? Relationship, anything. Imagine if there was no negative thought or past thought or hesitation or anything in your nervous system or brain. Imagine if you just were so clear and there was no other damage or noise around you. Because how fast would you get that result? I'm like, rapidly, right? You'd rapidly get anything you want. He's like, exactly. Well, that's what I was talking about with Tesla before. That's what we're doing, right? So what we're doing on a quantum physical level, I'll explain after, with superposition and stuff. But here, what we're doing, imagine if there was no noise, like no past thoughts, no negative, no doubts, no nothing. It was just clear, like a laser beam. Then what we do as a human being, we are actually pulling in energy, okay? And we are directing it, right? So what's it being directed through? It's going through our filter system, right? It's going through our neurology. It's going through the software that we've put in there. So if we're understanding that if we clear this noise, if we're so clean on focus, precision focus, then what happens is that's how we direct the energy to exactly what we want. And that's how, what we call it, manifesting, right? And this is, I'll show you the technique after, but this is how crazy results happen really, really fast. For example, this is going way down the woo-woo again, but I spoke to not long ago. This is way down the rabbit hole, but we're going there today. Have you ever heard of spontaneous healing? Get the idea though, right? Instant healing, okay? Now, this sounds so stupid. It sounds so stupid, but it's real. It's absolutely real. Spontaneous healing is real. And we can go down the rabbit hole with this to the example I was going to tell you about that. Someone we know broke their ankle, went and got healed. It was fixed, and then re-broke it, and then went to the doctor again. And this was a healer this time, and they healed it. And he gives it, stand up, you can walk now. And she's like, nope. And he goes, oh, you don't believe. You believe it for other people, but not yourself. And she's like, created that change in her brain, healed. She could walk. She had a broken ankle. She can walk, right? I've done it with, sounds trippy again. It's like, what the hell does that mean? I've done it with the flu. I remember coming down with the flu and I looked in the mirror for I think it was 25 minutes. And I literally went inside and visualized going into that part of my body and switching the code off. And instantly the flu was gone. I've done it, right? What the fuck is that? I don't know. But this is how powerful we are, right? This is how powerful we are. So if we understand we're magnetic beings, we understand we're magnetic, we draw in what we want. If we cleared the noise, we have precision of manifesting, precision of what we want. Then we have to start becoming so incredibly aware of where we are on these scales. So now let's jump into the scale, okay? So what he talks about is this. So we go from 20 on the left-hand side, right? All the way up to 1,000, okay? Think of that as levels, right? A computer game. Just think about that as levels. I'm just trying to move my screen out the way. There we go. So what happens is we might be visualizing the right things. We might be learning all the right tactics. But guess what? Our frequency is down here, right? Shame. So if we look what's on the right, it says destructive energy, okay? So what happens is if we get a knockback off somebody, or we get a no, or we don't get momentum, or we get frustrated, what we've got to look to is the true root causes of these things emotionally. What's the bottom one? Shame. So what's the next one? Miserable humiliation. So think about that in a business or a project or a relationship or health or getting clients or wherever you are, because all the different people watching this, right? Then we move from miserable humiliation to guilt. That goes up to victimhood and blame. I can't do this because, right? Shame. Oh, the past has still messed me up. I can't get, then we go up to apathy. So this is where we're moving up, right? But this is where we get helplessness. We feel hopeless. Oh, there's nothing. The world economy sucks. You know, I don't know how to market right. Facebook sucks now. This has changed. What to do here, right? Helplessness. And then what happens is we start to focus on the past, right? All the mistakes that I've made. I could have been here, should have been there, right? Then we start to move forwards. Fear and love, right? But that's where anxiety. And this is where most of the world is hanging out, right? Especially with all this shit that's going on in the world. Everyone is focused on feeling fear, right? The economy sucks. This has happened. Crypto's awesome. Crypto's not, right? Whatever game you're playing. But from here, from fear, this is the next beautiful step. This is where we want to be moving to, desire, okay? Now, this could be like looking on Instagram and going, I want that. I want that. You know, why can't I have that life? Challenge is, it comes from ego. It's greed. But I don't mind this one. Because if that gives you a kick in the ass to get moving, because you want what other people have, okay, right? Hey, that's okay. Difference is here that greed will get us moving, but it will only move us to the next one. And that's anger, hate, aggression, right? But in anger, it creates movement, right? Fuck you, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove this, right? That at least creates movement. The challenge is, right? If we are still living consumer, investor, right? If we're still in consumer and giving that energy away, then what we're going to do is the energy is moving, but we're giving it away, right? So what happens is, if we keep putting our hand on the fire, what happens? Ow, we want to move away, right? But if we keep putting our hand on the fire, what happens? We get burned, we get injured. That creates a wound, a scar, right? We want to use that, fuck you, push off, create momentum, and then move into the next frequency. Is this making sense? I know it's weird, but is it making sense? How it relates to where you are and your growth, right? Because the truth is, from anger, we get pride. I created a product, right? I created the service, get out to the world, pride, right? Nothing wrong with that, it's still ego. It's okay, right? It's low level ego, it's fine. But that's pride, okay? This is where we all want to be living now. We're done with this. This is weak. And I'm not calling you weak. I use this and I call it all my time. And Steph kicks off at me for saying all this. But this is weak. This is weak energy, not a weak person. This is weak energy. This up here is powerful. This is strong energy, right? But we have to understand your power doesn't come until we get courage. Until we're here and we're this beautifully said. That's why I love this particular diagram. Life is exciting. When life becomes exciting, guess what changes? Everything, right? Where's our focus now? Is our focus on being humiliated because things aren't working, or sad and regret because we should have done this, or worried about? No, we're now in a different world. So when you feel these, or any of these, understand we're going up. So if you're feeling shame, humiliated, that's the lowest vibration. It's the lowest vibration. What does the media do all the time? Humiliates people, puts them down, makes people feel guilt. This, because I'm not a conspiracist, but there's some shady shit that happens in the world when you look at psychology, right? And manipulation. So when you start to understand this, we got to understand we cannot be in any of these emotions to create the vibration that we want, which is going to manifest and magnetize the people, places, and things that we're ready to receive. What's on the right? Creative energy, right? What's this on the left here? Dissolves negativity. So when we start getting to love, which we've got, there's a big jump yet, right? We'll move to it in a second. But now we're excited about life, courage, right? So although we don't know what's outside or what's next, that's where we neuro-condition, right? What have I been teaching? That's where we condition our brain and nervous system to see and feel the next level, so it's used to it, right? But that's where we get courage. And then neutrality, energy becomes positive. This is where we get self-worth starting, right? Beginning of inner confidence. So when we start to understand, this is the levels that we have to go through. Remember, we're not near love yet. This is where we start to gain self-love, willingness. This is where you get rapid growth, right? We get past that inner resistance because we're willing now to just move to acceptance. And this, when we accept exactly where we are, when we stop pushing square pegs into round holes, right? And we look for what is in flow and we double down what's in flow, then what we're doing is, here's the difference. We're allowing the universe, whatever you want to call it, to bring us that possibility. And instead of going, shit, down here, oh, I don't know if I can do it. No, why don't we co-create with what the universe or opportunity it's brought us? Does that make sense? We rise our frequency. The universe brings us in, the magnet brings it to us. And instead of going, oh, I don't know if I can do it because it's new. No, we accept it and we co-create with it, right? That's how. You've all had these, it sounds so fucking woo-woo, but we've all looked, if you can look at everything from the past, every single thing that led you to this moment of you sitting here, if you can look back, every single fucking dot was perfect. Every single dot was perfect, including that absolute horriblest, the most vile circumstance in your life that's ever happened. That was perfect because of your growth, because of your knowledge, because of what you can do and help and see and who you can use that knowledge towards. That's the point, man. So in my personal belief, you've got to go through all these, right? You have to be able to get that courage to be able to move up to love, right? And from love, all that means is we're just helping people all day, morning to night, morning to night, morning to night, whatever you're doing, right? Make people feel good. You do that, where are you vibrating all day? Right? What do you think is going to happen? But we know when we're down here, what happens? Every fucking time. Bad shit. Every time, right? When we're here, does it mean that everything goes smooth? No, of course it doesn't. But when we start to understand that your life is this scale, whether you understand it or not, then what becomes our mission, right? What becomes our mission? Is it to create amazing products and services? Sure. But those amazing products and services only come from us being in the right place. Does this make sense? I know I'm ranting, but so if you understand this, I swear that I have a friend, Taylor, 21 years old, maybe 22 now, but 21, 22 years old. He's sold one business and he earns 7 figures from his other one. He's on 7 figures from this new one. He works on that first business 3 hours a week. This other one, I'm probably a lot more, but he's 21 and 22 years old. Do you know what he does with his spare time? Reads. He learns. All he does is obsessively grow. That's it. That's all he does. Do you know what he has a massive poster on and he lives every day by? This. That's it. He's obsessed with this. My friend Matt earns crazy millions a year. He's obsessed with this. Now, when you start talking to people who are obsessed with something that sounds woo-woo, I'm showing you it's weird, but they're incredibly successful, highly enlightened, amazing people, calm, everything, then we have to start listening. Do you know what I mean? What is it that the YouTube people and all of these other bullshit gurus out there, right? If we get rid of all that fluff and noise, what is the real truth? Not a fucking watching a quote that somebody's read and then they're repeating it, right? It's like Jay Shetty. Anyone know Jay Shetty? No? Yep. Yeah, kind of. Do you know do you know why he became popular and famous? Well, Facebook launched their TV, right? They launched the TV channel, Facebook. I didn't even know they still got one, but apparently there's loads of shows on it and people watch it. But he got picked out for them to launch him. So guess what he did with his content? Stole it all. All of it is stolen. Every single bit of it. All of his videos, every quote he made was stolen off somebody else, and all he did was put his name at the end. What you'll see over the past 12 months, because he's been caught, all of them now say the original persons, everything he does. So all those videos, everything he did that put out to the world, it's just stolen. Now, I don't care how much money he has, how much success he has, or how much of a nice guy he has, right? I don't care. That will burn him. I'm telling you, that eats him inside. And if you've got that inside of you, I'm telling you, there's karma to that. You'll get it. Something happens not in a good way to that. And I've seen it many, many times. So everything becomes frequency. But is this making sense so far? Are we on the same page? We keep going down this path? Okay. Yeah. So that's the 555. Let me show you this. Okay, so Zoom, you need to do something with your little thing over there. So now we starting to understand. We take it to a whole new level, okay? And the reason I'm sharing this is, let me see if I'll explain it a bit, but I just want to forget the word fucking auras, right? Aura is a crazy word with connotations to it. But Harvard did studies, and all of these have done studies now. What they're showing is that, see this word here? There's a bioelectric magnetism that is around us. We have a biofield around us, right? We have an energy field around us, okay? So what this shows is that Steph has actually got the study around this, but it's 12 feet. We actually they can map and show an energy field around us of 12 feet. Think about that, right? Think about that. So when you're interacting with someone physically around them, right? Like you're with them, your frequency affects them, right? Their frequency affects yours. And if we start to understand this, right? Everything becomes vibration, because this is, I'm not going to go into this too much, but this is, see if there's any key parts of this. But the point is, if we understand that our health or everything, we are this energy field, and now they can actually map this stuff from real universities. We have to start going, well, what the heck is really, really going on? Wasn't it the hippies from the 60s that were talking about auras, right? If you've ever done psychedelics, you've seen auras, right? You've seen lots of auras if you've ever done magic mushrooms or LSD or anything. You have seen some incredible things. The reason is, that's just your filter system opening up. That's the same thing, right? Understand that when we are, we take in over 2 million bits of information through our 5 senses every single second. That gets chunked down and goes through a filter. We know this stuff, right? So understand that what you're seeing is literally what energy you're vibrating at. And if we can understand this, then this moves us to where I want to get to here, which is understanding that I spoke about before, the law before the law of attraction.
Okay, guys. Okay, crew. I understand I cut it off in a crazy place, and there's literally another hour or so of this, and where we go into all the topics that I said we were going to go into. But obviously, this is on a podcast, and you want to ask questions and all the rest of it. And yes, this is so different to what I usually teach, right? But do you like it? Does it make sense? I hope so, right? Because again, this is what we're teaching in the VIP circle. We're talking tactics, strategies, business growth, alignment. We're tuning brains up. It's wild to see the success that people get. And as I say, that's available to you. So come and have a chat with me. It's andymurphy.biz. And hit the mentor button and apply, and let's have a chat if it's for you. As I say, maximum 10 people, and I'm just keeping it to the side. And I'm sure you can afford it. I'm sure you can if you're running a business. The other thing is you want to pay close attention right now to what we've got coming out in the next month or two. It's connected to this, but for entrepreneurs and business, high-level business, and it's going to be special. It's all the NLP, it's all the neuroscience, it's all the gamification, it's all the behavioral psychology, it's all the influence, and it's also way down the rabbit hole with this. The juice of this podcast or this training is what the second half of it. It really, really is. But again, if you loved it, come and have a chat with me. Come and have a chat with me. And speaking of awesome things, why don't you have an awesome week? And until the next time, much love. Make sure you're hanging out with me in the Andy Murphy Mindset. Type that in Facebook. You can connect with me. Make sure that you're connecting with me so we can have a chat if something's a right fit for you. Whatever level business, whatever level life, let's take it to a whole new level together. Okay? So beautiful, beautiful. Until the next time, much, much love. Take care. And 306 times I think this is now. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.